all the possible Star Wars spin-offs we could have got. We got this. Oh well, let's try and enjoy it. Hey movie fans, so Solo, a Star Wars story, is the second of the Disney Star Wars story, which I still think is a terrible title for these Solo, these spin-off movies, dating back to Rogue One. Now we have Solo. Why can't we get Obi-Wan? I will just sit in my corner of shame until we get an Obi-Wan movie, in which case you will see me rejoicing in the streets. But we're not here to talk about Obi-Wan because that's slowly slipping away from us. We're here to talk about Solo and the joys that it brought me. Okay, before I begin, Solo really isn't that bad. I'm making it out to be a lot worse than it actually is. Solo's not that bad. However, it's not that good either. It's somewhere in the middle. If a Star Wars movie could just be fine, that's what Solo is. It really is just, I'll take it. It was fine. Nothing gained, nothing lost. It really didn't need to be made. This was a movie that no one was asking for, but Disney made it anyway because dollar, yo. Although looking at this projection for opening weekend, maybe not the dollar Disney was expecting, huh? Well, okay, let's actually review this thing. So, the positives first. The cast was pretty strong. By and large, I believe that this was a younger version of the classic characters. Alden Ehrenreich, he was pretty solid as Han Solo. But, I put a little asterisk by this. I liked him quite a bit as a protagonist. However, I never really got behind him as a young Han Solo. And it never felt like a young Han Solo. It felt like just a fun smuggler character, but it never felt like Han Solo to me. That being said, I like Alden Ehrenreich's performance. It just never felt like Solo to me. On the flip side, Donald Glover felt just like Lando Calrissian to me. It was a ton of fun watching him in this movie. I like seeing young and very active Chewbacca. We had a guy that could actually perform. Paul Bettany as evil Vision, essentially. Not so much. The cast was hit or... This whole movie, not just the cast, but this whole movie is very hit or miss. There's quite a few times that it's really, really fun. But then you go for long stretches of time where it's not fun. And it just feels like shoehorn reference with shoehorn reference of beating you over the head of, huh? You get what we're going for here? Yes, we understand what you're going for. I still enjoyed this movie a lot better than Rogue One. I had a lot of issues with Rogue One, primarily because of the characters. Thankfully, the characters were better this time around. It's neither of these movies amounted to anything amazing or, frankly, that good. This really is just a fine movie. It is perfectly acceptable to skip this. This is, if I could sum it up, this would be a Redbox movie. But let's keep diving into some positives. There were a couple references that made me smile in the theater of just like, okay, this feels familiar to me. Okay, now, I get it. We don't need to be bashed over the head with nostalgia. There's still a lot of good stuff in there of just like, it's nice to see where this came from or where this came from. It goes way overboard on that quite a bit, but it was still nice to see. The action in this was pretty awesome. There's one, almost like an old school train robbery scene, and that was actually really, really well done. It was well shot. It was a really fun scene. I was like, alright, can we keep this tempo up? We didn't, but it was nice to dream for a little bit there. And unfortunately, I had this spoiled for me before I went in, but I'm not going to tell you. There's something that they clearly are trying to set up for the sequels. It makes me curious to see the sequels. I can almost put money on it that we're not going to get it at this point, but they are very much banking on this movie doing well so they can launch more Solo movies. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, they've set it up in a way that I'm very curious as to which direction they go in. I've talked a lot about the negatives already, but what are some other things that really took away the experience for me, and that part of it is pacing. This movie is way too long, way longer than it needed to be. This clocks in at like 2 hours and 20 minutes. This could have easily been a 2-hour movie, just plain and simple. There was so much stuff that you could have cut out. There was quite a few times that I was like, okay, this has to be the end. Nope, this has to be the end. It's not Lord of the Rings bad, of just like, this is the end of it. No, this is the end of it. It was just weird and not well paced. I also had issues with the villain, as I talked about before, of Evil Vision Paul Bettany. He's just your bland villain, but he's just a henchman. They set things up that I'm curious for some sequels, and I'd like to go down that path. It'd be very interesting to me, I think. Solo is a mixed bag. If you are a diehard Star Wars fan, I say check it out. There's really no harm done here. It's just fine. If you aren't overly excited for it, I completely understand. I'm with you. I would say you can wait until Redbox. It's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. It really just sounds like I hated this movie. I liked it a lot better than Rogue One. I actually had quite a bit of fun with this. But it's just... And here's where I'm going to start getting into a bit of a rant, and I know that. It's this notion that we have to have these spin-off movies with characters that we already know. We got Rogue One. Granted, they weren't characters that we knew, but it was leading into a story that we already had. We didn't need the Death Star plans. We already loved Han Solo. We don't need to know how he got the things that he got or how he became the character that we know from Episode 4. His introduction was fine. And now we have a Boba Fett movie on the way too. It's getting to the point that I don't get the point of these spin-off movies, because they're dividing audiences even more than they already are, with Last Jedi splitting people right down the middle. People are already split down the middle on this, even though I kind of lean more towards the positive. Disney really needs to kind of take a step back, reevaluate, okay, why aren't these working? Is it the length of time between movies? Because it hasn't been that long since Last Jedi came out. Is it the length between the releases? Is it the fact that no one was really asking for this, and now that it's come out, but I would just like these spin-off movies to do something fresh and new. This doesn't feel fresh or new. It feels so incredibly safe and sanitary. It breaks no new ground, and that's what's so frustrating about this movie, is it's so paint by the numbers. I wasn't expecting anything groundbreaking and new with Solo. I just wanted to be entertained, and that I was for most of this movie. But when I wasn't, it just felt so, we have to include this, we have to include this, we have to include this. And that just, the formulaic nature of it just kind of really took me out of it. And I wanted this to be better, and it was better than I was expecting it to be. But I really want these spin-off movies to get better. So, after my long rant that I know I went on, I'll probably give Solo, a Star Wars story, my most oddly specific rating yet of 6.75 out of 10. It's not bad enough to get a 6, but it's not quite there to 7. I had some fun with this movie, but not as much fun as this movie potentially could have been if it wasn't so predictable and safe and just overall kind of forgettable and meh. Well, what did you guys think about Solo? Did you enjoy it, or were you kind of me of, it was fine and it was a distraction for 2 hours and 20 minutes? Well, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Uncharted Media. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals, and may the Force be with you.